And of course, this looks like a mixed number. Your reaction, Dagen McDowell, where you got an unemployment rate that looks better than expected, but the number of jobs created worse than expected.
261,000 is still a decent number. And looking at the estimate range, it's right in the middle because the range was very wide going into this. Right. 120,000 all the way up to 420,000. A revision to the month of September that we actually had, as expected, job gains. That job loss for the month of September originally reported, so now up 18,000 there, and some really good broad-based gains.
Yeah, they were up. The number of jobs were up 261,000.
Yeah, that.
Yes.
Yeah, that should be green arrow.
Yeah.
Green
Get
arrow.
this graphic
going
off
up.
the screen, guys, please. This is not right. It's up.
4.1% unemployment rate. The lack of change in wages was a little bit surprising. That wages were unchanged is what we were showing.
And that continues to surprise me, Dagen. We've talked about that, but we see wages moving. I know the wages in this report are hourly wages, which is different than obviously salaried and when we look at household incomes. But I can tell you from the front lines, we are seeing wages move. One thing that was surprising was the loss in retail of 8,300 jobs. I think this speaks to even the holiday jobs have really shifted from the retailers. They're shifting more to the warehouses, logistics, transportation. Jobs are moving there just due to e-commerce.
Right. But that whole industry is changing.
But to point that out, Walmart said it's not adding seasonal workers. It's just giving more shifts to people who already work at the company.
More hours.
So that kind of backs up what we saw in retail last month.
I mean, I'm interested in Lisa's take on the wages because last month we actually had one of the best wage increases for September. It was basically the best wage increase, our average hourly wage increases since 2009. So, Lisa, what do you take from this jobs number, and am I looking at the wage increase the right way?
Yeah, no, the wage number is actually a little surprising, and we're disappointed that it didn't actually come in up. That being said, I think if we look at the broader economic picture, it really continues to remain solid, whether you're looking at other sectors of the economy or you look at all the leading indicators to basically what's going on in the jobs market. Business sentiment remains good. The number of openings remains solid. And so we do, even though we think that this number is a little bit disappointing, we do continue to believe that as we continue to move forward in the next few quarters, we'll see that number strengthen.
Brian Bremberg, how do you see it?
Well, I was interested in the participation rate number coming down a little bit here. You marry that with the wage number being flat or even down just a little bit. This continues to be a problem, folks. We can't really say we're at full employment until you see those wage numbers go up. The participation rate, people want to write it off as it's a demographic thing. It's not as big a deal as people want to make of it. But when the wage numbers don't come back the way they haven't come back, then it starts to look like a real problem. So this report to me is very mixed. The headline number, not bad, but there's some underlying stuff here that suggests the economy really does need a boost. Brings you back to the tax reform conversation. It's why that package is so important and so important to get it right.
Yeah,
I agree. And if you look at participation, it's the people who aren't participating like they used to, right? Young, able-bodied, young men in particular. The wage thing is interesting because if you delve into the numbers, to Joni's point, there are some great paying jobs out there where wages are going up. But if you're unskilled in this country, you mentioned warehousing. We just brought in 2 nephews from Puerto Rico. They lost everything. Got them a job in New Jersey at a warehouse. It's $9 an hour. I mean, it's all, and they're hiring people all day long, those kind of gigs, And so it's an interesting country because there's a huge swath of haves. And there's people who have been left behind and continue to be left behind. And, you do things for them like tax breaks, but ultimately we got to find a way to sort of bring, have the same tide lift all ships. With the revision, the number is more or less in line because you add 50,000 plus 260, that's about what we were looking for. The market likes it so far because we still are creating jobs in this country. But again, wages have to start moving across the board, I think.
You have to believe that things are improving here based on this number, based on the GDP number. I mean, slowly but surely, we are looking at a much better turn.
We've got momentum in this economy.
Yeah, I think an important stat we should look at is the October consumer sentiment number. I mean, it was the highest we've seen since 2004. So consumers out there are actually very,
and by the way,
optimistic.
Job optimism was the highest since 2001. So if you start to even break down that number, people are very extraordinarily excited. But again, every industry, every report that I read, whether it's these regional Fed reports, corporate earnings, every time I've opened up an earnings report, the statement says we're still having trouble finding skilled workers.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's
and
a skills gap. Big
it
issue.
is, and I've talked about this previously on your program, Maria, where one of the things we've looked at is we're placing a lot of hourly workers at Employ Bridge. So we've invested and actually have partnered with a training company because we feel we have to address it. We feel like it's our responsibility to do that. I think we're going to see more companies do that in the future. We're going to have to invest in training and providing education and skills for workers. But I do want to come back to the tax reform, and the corporate tax cuts could really turn things around here and start driving more growth, especially for small businesses.
Yeah. Well,
and
we're
that's where
already
we could
seeing.
we're
seeing businesses finally, loosen the purse strings.
Absolutely.
And finally put money to
And
work
they'll
in terms of
continue to
investment.
invest.